A lot of people are jumping ship already, and I don't blame you. I had one foot off the boat already. But JJ Redick is trying to calm us all down. Okay, let's listen to what he had to say.
I think the disappointing part to me is that we haven't seen enough of them all healthy and together. Durant's missed 7 games. Booker's missed 11 games. Beal has missed 29 games. Shannon, your point about expectations is a fair point. I would say this. Coming into this season, we talked a lot about how there were 10 really good basketball teams in the Western Conference. So given the amount of injuries they've had, the fact that they're sitting in 6th place, to me, that's not a disappointing thing. If you look at this data, and again, I hate sometimes using stats, but sometimes you have to. If you look at the data, there have been a bunch of teams that have had 5-man lineups play 250 minutes or more together. Only 5 of those lineups have outscored opponents by 10 or more points per 100 possessions. Phoenix is one of those lineups. Their starting 5 is one of those lineups. When they go small with Durant and Eric Gordon and Grayson Allen and Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, they outscore opponents by 19 points per 100 possessions. When they've been on the court together, they've been a damn good basketball team. So the disappointing part is the injuries. It's not necessarily in the performance of the big 3 when they've been together. And I still think, I'll say this, we knew this coming into the season. This is the problem with building super teams. You are not going to have the depth to withstand one of your main guys getting hurt, especially in this conference. So, again, relative to expectations, I'm not disappointed given the injuries.
First and foremost, the comments in the chat talking about that person in that graphic, chef's kiss.
It was so.
You guys are hilarious.
If you were wondering.
Hilarious.
I lie to the people.
Back to what
job
JJ
here.
Redick was saying. At the end of the day, he's more concerned about the injuries than he is the product on the court and the performance during the regular season. I think, Gerald,
I've maybe touched on that a few times before. Fuck, man. I
don't think I believe you still.
Breaking news.
I feel like a crazy person though, because there's such negativity after losses, and especially coming out of the All-Star break, you go 2-4, book goes down. And I'll be honest, like if you asked me, do I think the Suns are going to win a title this year? No, I would put the Celtics ahead of them. I put the Nuggets. I might even put the Clippers ahead of them in terms of likeliness to win the title. But I'm not counting them out yet either, because we've seen what they look like when they have their full complement of guys. We've seen Royce O'Neal come in and be a seamless fit. And, between their starting 5, Royce O'Neal and Eric Gordon when he's on, like that's a solid core 7. And JJ Redick went on First Take again this morning and said, I would put their top 7 guys against any top 7 in the NBA. And it's true. And when the playoffs start and your rotations get cut and it's a half-court game, you need to be able to run your stuff in the half-court. The Suns are a very good half-court offense. They're even more dynamic when they're in transition, obviously. But like their defense has been trending in the right direction. And I feel like all of these different looks that they've struggled with, having to play games without Book, having to play games without Beal, is good for them in these situations where one of these guys is going to be out for 3 to 4 minutes at a time. What are you going to do in those minutes? There are still very real concerns. The turnovers are a real concern. The fourth quarter, just lack of whatever the hell happens to them in the fourth quarter is a concern. But I do think that like they've shown us since late December what they're capable of when they're fully healthy. And so that's my biggest thing. Are you going to get enough reps before the playoffs start to make up for that continuity disadvantage? And that's what I've been saying since probably December at this point.
So it's not that I don't believe you.
But you don't believe me?
Or JJ Redick, for that matter. It's that I don't have as much faith.
That's fair.
Does that make sense? Like, I get exactly what you guys are saying. Like, if we could throw health out the door, I'd be fully bought in on this team.
Right.
But we can't do that. And I think that's where the doubt, the concern, the panic, if you will, at times creeps in.
But I don't think anyone here, I don't think he or I have ever said, like, throw the health out the window.
No,
I think it's more like, because like I said, I don't think that they're going to win this year, because I don't think that even if they have 40 games with these guys, if Book comes back in 2 games, everybody stays healthy, they'll barely get to 40 with the big 3. I don't think that's enough in a playoff series against the Nuggets. It might not even be enough against the Clippers in the big 3, because they've played like nearly 800, 900 minutes together. The Suns are barely, their starting 5 is at like 270 something. Yeah. But when they have been there, they've been really good. So I can't write it off entirely. A lot of stars have to align, but it's not impossible either.
Yeah, I mean, the teams you named are built on continuity.
Mm-hmm.
They've been around together. I think what's tough for me is JJ says it, implies it, and Dan Bickley, a guy I really enjoy, but he was talking about, well, JJ saying it shouldn't be a disappointment. Bickley's talking about lower your expectations, da-da-da.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with that, right? I get when healthy, this team can compete with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
If they had been healthy all year and they got those minutes, we're having a different conversation right now. But to Lindsey's point, the reality is they didn't have that. Health has not been part of this. And we knew that could be the pitfall with this team. But that, to me, I'm sold on early on championship. We're putting this team together to win it all. This is a team built for the playoffs. This is all these things. So I think you can both understand that the minutes thing, but also still be disappointed and or frustrated with where it is. And I feel like some people, not you, Gerald, but some people in this discussion act as if you shouldn't feel disappointed in what's going on. And I think it is possible to realize both. And that's where I'm at. I get that if they were healthy, different conversation, but I'm still disappointed that they're not legit in that conversation to be a contender.
It's disappointment in the lack of health. It's not necessarily disappointment in what this team could be.
Exactly.
I think, and there's a difference in that, right? Like saying you're disappointed in this team in the sense of like they just went out there and shat the bed. No. That's completely different than being disappointed that we just couldn't stay healthy. We didn't get to see enough of it. They didn't get enough time together. We're disappointed in, like, there's two totally different things.
Right. And I agree with that. But my thing is the disappointment with the health bleeds over into all of the other stuff way more often than it should. Yeah. Like, there's a reason why, like, the turnovers are super frustrating. There are a lot of turnovers that they make that it's like, what the hell were they doing on that play? But some of them are a product of not having the time on the floor together to work through some of those kinks like that. Yeah. You need that. That's like we saw the Clippers when they brought James Harden. They started like 0-6 or something like that. They were not a good team at that point, but they worked through a lot of those feeling out processes and they got a lot better. So I want the Suns to be in that same position. I think they've shown that they can get there. But for me, like when you let disappointment about things that are out of the player's control, like health, bleed over into Bradley Beal sucks, why did we trade for him?
You're too far.
That's the type of shit that I just like the trying to have this retrospective view of like, we never should have traded for KD. We never should have traded for Bradley Beal. That shit's wild to me because it's like you see when they're out there what they're capable of being. It's stuff that's beyond their control that has limited this team's ceiling.